Roblox games you probably haven't played yet, and trust me, they're definitely worth your time. I also hid 3 Roblox gift card codes somewhere throughout this video, so make sure to watch till the end if you want to find them all. Also, like and subscribe if you want me to keep doing things like this in the future. Anyways, let's get right into it. Game 1, Men at Arms. This is a medieval Roblox war game where you fight against a ton of different enemy soldiers, and the graphics are honestly some of the best I've ever seen on Roblox. They also give you a ton of different controls you can use, which adds a lot more gameplay. Game 2, Gone Hunting. This is probably one of the coolest games I've played in a while. The mechanics with the shooting on this game are really cool, and I've never seen anything like it. They also have a fishing mechanic in this game that's pretty similar to the game Fish, but it might be even better because of how difficult it is. I also really like the animations in this game, with collecting a ton of different animals around the map. Lastly, there's also a ton of different rifles, fishing rods, and traps that you can buy throughout the shop. Game 3, Rail Frenzy. This is probably one of the coolest looking games on this list. The whole premise of this game is to mine trees and rocks around the map to then convert them into railroad tracks. While the train is moving, your goal is to place down the railroad tracks to create a path to the other side. The train's water tank can also overheat at times. Overall, this is a pretty chill and fun game to play with friends as well. Game 4, Chasms. I honestly randomly found this game while I was scrolling for like no reason at all, but it's honestly a really cool game. It's kind of like an RPG/adventure game. Basically, a robot follows you around and you have some really cool abilities on your own character. You can mine for ores, open chests, and fight mobs around the map. I honestly really just enjoyed this game for the mechanics, like just jumping around and swinging around vines was just a ton of fun. Game 5, Centaura. This is the first of many war games, and this is a 35v35 battle against a ton of different soldiers, and the maps are massive. The guns in this game also feel really smooth, and just the animations in general feel really good as well. They also have a ton of different classes to choose from rifleman, assault, grenadier, medic, officer, flame trooper, and motorman. Probably one of the top war games to play with friends as well because of how many people there are per lobby. Game 6, Dig. I don't really want to rant too much about this game, but this game holds a pretty special place in my heart. This is actually how I started my channel. This game is also created by the owners of Fish, so if you like Fish, you'll most likely like this game. It's pretty similar to it, but of course you just dig up items instead. There's honestly a ton of different shovels that you can unlock throughout the game, and there's just a ton of things to do in general. You could also fight a ton of bosses across the map and dig up for secrets. If you do end up playing this game, make sure to watch my tutorials back on my previous videos. I made a ton of tutorials on this game, and it's honestly a great game. I highly recommend it. Game 7, Forgotten Memories. This is the first of a couple more horror games on this list, and Forgotten Memories is like a FNAF type game. I'm gonna be completely honest, I only played this game for around 2 minutes because I got really scared. The jump scares were like really scary. The goal of the game is to follow the objectives around the map, so pull levers, activate generators, and then eventually you will have to stay away from the animatronics that roam around the map and try to kill you. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good horror game. I do recommend playing it if you are able to take some jump scares, but yeah. Game 8, Blue Heater 2. Now, I also randomly stumbled upon this game just scrolling mindlessly, and it's probably one of the top adventure games on this list. It's a ton of fun. There's a lot of things to do and a lot of things to explore throughout this game. You could even customize your character, fight slimes, which is pretty weird but cool, and just accept quests from a lot of people around the map. For the player count and the amount of visits on this game, it's honestly shocking to see how this doesn't have more attention because it's a really well-made game, and you could definitely tell the creators put a lot of time into this game. Game 9, Climbing Game. This is probably mechanically one of the coolest games on this list. The goal of the game is to make it up to the top of the mountain by climbing on ledges placed around the map. The game is quite confusing at first if you don't really understand which block does what, but over time it does become pretty fun. There's also a map with a ton of different mountains that you could visit that have all types of different difficulties. And just be aware the game is pretty rage-inducing. That's probably why the rating of the game is minorly low as well. But for the amount of players on this game, it's definitely a game that you have to try out. It's a ton of fun. Game 10, Combat Initiation. In this game, you first select your primary and secondary weapons. Then you fight waves of noobs that randomly spawn around the map. With your team, your goal is to kill every single one of them to then move on to the next wave. I honestly really love the movement in this game, and just jumping around and dashing is really fun. After certain waves, a shop will spawn in and you can buy new items. Game 11, just hold on. In this game, your goal is to dodge moving objects while you're running on a conveyor belt. It's honestly a pretty cool game, and the more meters that you run, the more difficult it gets. Whenever you spectate as well, they also have events that you can spawn to try to kill other players. There's even a shop with animations, auras, and perks. It's honestly a pretty cool game, and there's a ton of different maps to play from as well. Make sure you spam the E ability as well, because it pretty much allows you to win the whole game. Game 12. The lanes. This is basically just bowling inside of Roblox, and it's honestly sick. The way that you roll the ball is honestly really cool. You have to hold your mouse button and drag it up to create a straight line to roll your ball. As you play the game, you unlock a ton of different cool ball skins as well. And just the visuals in this game in general create like a real vibe, like you're actually there bowling. Just be aware though, because some pretty weird things happen throughout this game. They have a ton of stuff to do in this game, and I highly recommend you play it with friends. It's honestly a ton of fun. Game 13, Defend the Train. In this game, you're on top of a moving train with your team. Your goal is to take out any events that spawn. There's also a ton of different classes to choose from to help you take out the events, such as Gunslinger, Medic, or Psycho. Each class has different perks you can upgrade throughout the game as well. It's honestly a ton of fun. Just make sure not to fall off the train or else you'll just die completely. Game 14. Snow Shoveling Simulator. In this game, you basically dig up snow with your shovel. With the snow, you can then sell it to a big giant snowman, which I don't know why he's so big and why he's built like that, but yeah. Then with the money that you get, you can buy new backpacks and new shovels. You can also buy snow shoveling trucks, which help you get even more snow, which means even more money. Honestly, this game is just really nostalgic. It's a great game to play if you're ever wanting to do something and you're just really bored, but yeah. Game 15, Sea of Pirates. It's basically Sea of Thieves, but on Roblox. There's a huge map with a ton of different islands to explore. You can fight skeletons, then find loot or fruit across the map to then sell for cash. Lastly, you can even fight against other pirates all across the map. Game 16. Amazing. In this game, you put packages in your Amazon truck, then set off to your first address. Once you get to your destination, you open the back van door, start unloading the packages, and then deliver them to your destination. You pretty much just do this for every single house in the game. That's pretty much the whole premise of this game. You're basically just an Amazon delivery driver who delivers packages across a big map. It's pretty cool. It honestly will give you some experience if you ever want to take on this job in real life too, so I highly recommend it. Game 17. Universal Roblox Theme Park. This is literally just Universal Studios inside of Roblox, and it's crazy. It's also made by the actual Universal theme park in real life. It's probably the most realistic theme park on Roblox. All the rides are so cool, and they're pretty much replicas of the real life Universal Studios. Which, I mean, you shouldn't really be surprised about that, but yeah. You can even walk through lines and ride with your friends. Probably one of the coolest theme park games. If you can't experience a theme park in real life, I'd definitely play this. Give it a shot for sure. Game 18. Chain. Chain is another horror game on this list. It's probably the most realistic first-person horror game, to be completely honest. You basically explore this huge map that's really realistic, and you have Jason the Killer chasing you and your friends around trying to kill you. You can run around the map to find tools or items such as bear traps. I ended up placing down a bear trap, and I only stunned Jason for a little bit of time, and he still ended up killing me, but yeah. Honestly, just like the last horror game, you do have to be up for the challenge because it is pretty scary and it will most likely shake you out of your boots, but yeah. Game 19. Airship Assault. This is probably one of the coolest war games on Roblox in the sense of what you could do throughout the game. You basically spawn on one of two blimps, and your goal is to take out the other blimp using airplanes or just shooting it out of the sky. There's also so many controls on the plane, which makes it really realistic as well. You can even have a gunman in your back that tries to shoot out other planes as you ride around. Just make sure not to crash into the other blimp though. There's honestly so much you can do in this game, and it just feels so real with all the planes running around as well. I'd definitely give it a try if you're into fast-paced war games, because this one's definitely for you. Game 20. The Circle. This is honestly a really cool game to play with friends. I've played it on my stream multiple times, and everybody's loved it. It's honestly a really cool game. It's basically a Super Smash Bros. Concept. You spawn in a circle with a ton of other players, and your goal is to not make it outside the circle. If you touch the red line, you basically just die and lose the game. There's minigames that'll randomly spawn during certain times, and your goal is to not get hit by them, or else they'll give you a percentage. The higher percentage you have, the higher percent you have of dying and most likely getting absolutely obliterated outside of the red circle. It's honestly a really cool game to play with friends, but the player count is unfortunately really low, so if you want to play this game by yourself, it's going to be a little bit hard. Game 21. Pixel Quest. Honestly, the best way to describe this game is a mix of Stardew Valley and Terraria just combined into one singular game, and it's really cool. You basically start off with starter weapons and you can explore the whole map, and you just kind of fight enemies along the way, unlocking new items and just new gears and stuff. There's also random events that spawn throughout the server where everybody can participate in, and it's mainly just like a boss fight, but it's really cool. I barely even explored this game, but I definitely try out this game if you're into games that kind of look like this, because honestly, there's not that many with this type of feature on Roblox. Game 22. Bombard. If you're an Arsenal fan, you'll definitely like this game. It's pretty much identical to Arsenal, but you have bombs and explosive weapons, which makes it even cooler. You run around the map with the singular explosive weapon that you spawned in with, and you just kill people. That's pretty much the whole premise of this game. Whenever you die as well, you get a brand new explosive weapon, which makes it even cooler. This game is just a ton of fun if you just want to like run around and just kill people pretty much. I mean, the movement is really cool with the sliding, which Arsenal doesn't really have that, so the movement's definitely a lot more enabled on this, I would say. Game 23. Cave Diving Experience. Before I start talking about this game, I'm just going to say, if you're claustrophobic, I would not recommend playing this game because it does get pretty intense at times. But basically, like it is in the game name, you just dive into caves into really tight and small spaces. It's pretty cool. You also have a ton of different tools in your inventory, such as a pickaxe, sword, headlamp, x-ray, and SOS, which just allows you to alert whenever you're stuck or something. There's also mobs that spawn throughout the cave, such as spiders that can kill you, so you can basically just use your sword to kill them, and yeah. There's also ores that you can mine throughout the cave whenever you're on a cave diving mission, I would say. And as you get those ores, you can turn them in for cash, which can basically allow you to upgrade your gear that you have. Game 24. Untitled Sushi Game. This game is actually created by the owners of Typical Ramen, if you ever played it, which is pretty cool. But basically in this game, you own a sushi store and your goal is to just cook for customers. You also have a ton of different fish and ingredients to choose from. I honestly think it's really cool with how many things you can interact with in this game, such as just the rice cooker. Once you get all your ingredients, you then top it together and create a sushi roll. Just make sure to clean up any spills around the map. Game 25. Project Track Day. This is the first racing game on the list, and it's honestly just going to be the last. I only have a singular racing game on this list because there's not that many out there, but there is a couple good ones. Honestly, racing games are really cool, and this game definitely falls under a really cool racing game. There's a ton of controls on your car, and you can pretty much see anything or just stats that are going on throughout the game. There's also a ton of different maps that you can play on as well, I believe. Game 26. Descent. In this game, you start out in a tube filled with water and you just break it open, which is already pretty cool. Then you make your way into an elevator that takes you down. Once you get out of the elevator, you can pick up items around the map to store in your inventory. After you explore the huge map, you make your way back into the elevator. Then you go down another floor and do the same thing. This game is supposedly a horror game, which I don't fully see it, but it definitely gives off some really cool vibes. I'm not gonna lie. It kind of reminds me of some sort of Steam game. It's like really realistic, but yeah. Game 27. Horizon Blue 1919. This is another war game on the list, and it's probably one of my favorite ones, and I randomly found it, which is even cooler. It's honestly like any other war game, except they have a ton of different game modes, and just the movement in it is really cool, such as jumping through windows, jumping over pillars, and just running in general. And I really like the way that the scope looks in this game with the white line. It's pretty cool. Overall, it's a really good horror game if you're just trying to find a random one that you want to play. Game 28. Pan for Gold. I honestly remember this game being pretty popular when it released, but for some reason it just completely died, and it's a really good game. It kind of gives me some Stardew Valley vibes, which is pretty cool as well. But basically you just go up to a river and you pan for gold, but the way that you pan for the gold is honestly really cool. You kind of had to move your mouse in this weird motion, but it makes it a really creative game. You then sell the gold that you get from panning for cash. With the cash, you can buy a ton of different pans. You also have your own plot where you can place down oil drills that pretty much just give you items that you can then again sell for even more cash. Game 29. Roblox Replay. This is a pretty random game, but I honestly find it pretty cool. It basically shows you your first ever game that you've ever played on Roblox. So you can look through from your first ever game till the game that you've played recently. There's also a leaderboard that shows the most amount of games ever played on Roblox. Game 30, Panic but with a K. In this game, you run around a grocery store with your friends trying to stay alive. Your goal is to go up to scanners and find items around the grocery store to pretty much just win the game. But there's some pretty weird looking spoon dude that pretty much just chases you around the map. So just try avoiding him. It's a pretty cool game if you're looking for something that's like a fast-paced horror type of game. But yeah. Game 31, Purgatory. This is an adventure slash fighting game with a really cool art style. There's pretty much just waves of enemies that randomly spawn and your goal is to kill them. Throughout the waves, you have random abilities that you can select to help increase your power. I really just like this game for the art style and just the way it looks in general. Game 32, Operation Siege. So this game is pretty much just Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, it's in the game name, but yeah. It's a 5v5 game mode with some pretty cool maps though, I'm not gonna lie, because they are a little bit different from the actual Rainbow Six Siege game. But pretty much you're either an attacker or defender, attacking your opponents or just defending against the attackers. And your goal is to win as many rounds as possible, which I think you're supposed to win 5 or 4. And that counts as a win. Again, there's not that much to say about this game because it pretty much is just Rainbow Six Siege if you have played it or heard of it. Game 33, Dead Ahead. Okay, so this is another war game, and I know I'm kind of glazing the war games. I swear, I think there's maybe one more on this list, and then that's the last one. But war games are really good. But anyways, in this war game, you're on one of 2 teams, and your main goal is to just absolutely obliterate the other team. You can either stay on the ship or you could fly in using helicopters or just planes, which is pretty cool. It's honestly like any average war game, but what I think is even cooler about it is that you're on the ocean instead of actually running around and just being on land. Game 34, Ducklings Simulator. When I first started playing this game, I honestly thought exactly a Bee Swarm Simulator because it's honestly a pretty cool replica of it. But instead it's with ducks. You basically own a nest of ducks. Then around the map, there's either seeds or poop, I think it is. I don't fully know, but basically pick it up until your storage is full. Then you take it right back to your nest to earn cash. With the cash, you can buy shovels and backpacks. I didn't play too much of this game, but there honestly seems like a lot that you could do, and it's a pretty cool game. Game 35, Bulwark. If you like medieval fighting games, this one is definitely for you. You're basically a medieval knight from the 1900s fighting against other knights. There's a ton of different abilities you could use, such as parry, feint, punch, and kick. It's a pretty simple game, and what I like about it is that majority of the player base are actual like veterans of the game that play the game like all the time, so it's always some competition. There's also a ton of weapons and armor you could buy too. Game 36, Crossovers. In this game, you can choose from a ton of different characters, such as Bacon, Noob, Brick Battler, or Chestnut. Then, you spawn into a boxing ring where you have a ton of different abilities that you could use to fight against other players. What I like is that every single character has a different ability, and all the abilities honestly have a lot of detail to them. It's honestly a pretty simple game, but if you're ever like bored and just want to play something quick and fast, this one's probably a good game to play. Game 37, Touch Tennis. I recently kind of found out about the touch community, and I found out that there's a ton of different touch games on Roblox, such as touch hockey, touch tennis, and just a lot more in general. Honestly, this is a really simple game. There's not that much to it other than you just run around and touch the tennis ball to make it over to the other side. It's basically just a 2v2, and it's pretty simple and fun, and that's the whole premise of the game. But yeah, Game 38, Desert Bus. I'm just gonna say this, if you're ever bored, then just play this game. It's a pretty interesting game that you could play with friends. Basically, you're in the middle of nowhere in the desert and you're just riding on a bus. In the bus, you can do a ton of things. Hang out with friends, hang on a sign for no reason, touch a button that's worldwide for all servers, which is honestly pretty sick, and just a ton more stuff. You could also fall off the bus for like no reason at all, but it's pretty cool. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole game. It's just you're in the desert on a bus. Game 39, Breadwinner World. In this game, you first cut wheat, then you roll the wheat into the factory, put it into the machine to then create the flour. With the flour, you then mix it to make the dough. Then it turns into bread. After that, you sit on a pile of cash. You can also invest in the bread market. But overall, this is a pretty simple game. There's not that much to it, but it's kind of just a bread simulator, if you want to put it that way. Game 40, Unit 1968. Alright, so this is the last war game on the list, and surprisingly, it's actually made by the owners of Arsenal. When you first load in, there's a ton of different classes to choose from, which are all really good. Then your main goal is to just have more kills than the other team to win the game. It honestly feels like a really realistic war game, especially with the guns, and just sneaking up on people is really fun. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good war game. Game 41. Running from the internet. This game is kind of similar to the game Evade, but I honestly think it's better. There's a ton of different game modes, and what happens is there's neck spots that try to chase you around the map and kill you. So your main goal is to get the most amount of points out of anybody to win the game. I really just like this game for the movement, to be completely honest, because it's pretty satisfying to jump around and just go around the map. But I honestly played this game for a decent amount of time because it's a ton of fun, so I definitely try it. Game 42. Cook candy. In this game, you're a part of the show Breaking Bad, and you pretty much just cook candy. It's honestly a really confusing game.